Okay, hello, welcome to our end of semester Socratic discussion. Our first question: what do you feel is the significance of literature, and American literature in particular? Who wants to start?
I will. American literature is important because it allows students to learn about the history of America and the different types of literature used to maximize our education. I said this because all of the different readings we did were based on different things like individualism, power, and protest, and facing our fears. This gave us many different perspectives about literature, which is great for our learning.
I agree with your perspective thing because I use that. I said that the significance of like literature in general is that it like hits everyone a little different. So everyone has their own perspective, and I think that's what makes literature. That's what makes it so significant.
I was gonna say I agree on that. What I wrote is like it's really important like that we understand like, what we're reading.
I really like that point. I put it kind of gives a sense of what it was like. So like in my book, I put like so I read The Help and it was talking about how the maids were writing a book, but when they were writing, it showed their education in that point. So it kind of showed how their education was during that time frame.
In my book, Educated, basically the girl was like didn't have any education at all. Her parents didn't believe in it, and so as she got older, like she went to college, and it really showed like that she didn't have anything. Like, people would oftentimes like not understand like why she would do stuff the way she did, and it just affected her entire life.
What do you think, Paige?
Well, I kind of agree with you all, but I had a different take on it. I essentially said literature shows like what the mindset of society is during the time period that it was made. This is especially highlighted when we did like the Romanticism, Transcendentalism, and Gothic period project, where we looked at different texts from those time periods.
It's a good way to teach us about the future, I think.
Everyone always says that like history repeats itself, so like I mean, if we learn about it,
Yeah, so we can even learn.
yeah, from like what we're reading.
I said its significance is like to record and document past so people can learn from it in the future.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that.
What about you, Neil? What do you think?
I agree that it helps us learn about what the past is like so we don't repeat from it or we can learn from it. So
What do you think, Kira?
I just like Paige. I had my own take on it. Literature is one large aspect in just the human culture. It's a way we've learned, we've written our own stories, and with like games or movies or TV shows that we take interest in, it was originally written down on paper.
Yeah, I really like that answer. I think that's a good one to end on. Okay, our next question: how do you feel you grew as an overall reader this semester? I think that I grew as an overall reader because of the genres that I was forced to read. Because usually I only stick to like one or two, but I read a lot of like war era stuff, and I read like the American classic. And even though I didn't really like the American classic, like I think I grew because I read it.
I agree. Like the stuff we read in class, like I personally wouldn't have chose to read like on my own, but like it's definitely interesting the stuff that you learn when you're reading.
I said I got better as a reader just because I read more than I usually do. So like the pre-reading and then the final essay that helped me in reading more.
I agree with that too. I read a lot more this class than I usually do, and I feel I got more fluent and faster as we got along, and I was able to attain more information in less time as I went along.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I also grew like a larger vocabulary because also like these books, it has like in the Declaration of Independence, it had more political terms than I'm used to, and I don't usually read books like it, so I thought that was nice.
I will say I grew because I learned how to stay on pace with the book. Like I usually start a book but never finish it, so it was nice to stay on track. So.
Lucas.
Yeah, I'd agree with you guys. I read a lot more than I usually do. And with Paige, I would start books but never finish them, and so that's kind of forced you to finish the book.
And then, how do you feel you've grown as an overall writer?
I feel like I've grown a lot. Like at the beginning of the year, like I feel like my essays weren't as good as what they are towards the end. Like you just learn so much more.
Mine is, yeah, the same. I think I got better at writing formal papers. Like, I never really had a problem with, like, creative writing, but formal papers, I never really knew if I was doing it right. I think that's because of the outlines, too. I think they helped me make sure that I was doing it the way that she wanted me to do it.
I definitely agree on the outlines. It's helped a lot.
I agree with that too, and I also think I got better with expanding like my variety because I used to repeat myself a lot, but I've got better about that as we went along, and I've learned how to structure and organize my writings better as we've gone.
Yeah, I think that's a lot because the outlines help you go further in depth with what you want to say.
And they help you how to organize it, like I was saying. Like I feel like at the beginning of the year I was choppy, but towards the end it flowed better because of the outlines.
Yeah, along Kale's line, I felt like I was noticing more of the errors I was making at the beginning of the year. Towards the end of the year in my final papers, I realized some of the errors I had made in the previous ones.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I didn't even like the outlines at first. It's like,
I agreed. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, like
I can appreciate them now.
there was the one we wrote an essay and then we didn't come back to it towards after the semester, way later. And so then looking back at what we wrote was rough.
What's your opinion, Kara?
I mean, I'm with you guys. I'm not one for outlines, but I can appreciate them. I honestly write so much on a daily basis anyway, but I definitely feel like my writing has grown.
I will say I agree with the whole outline thing, but overall I've learned how to add my own voice into the things I write rather than just writing things. I write them how I would say them, I guess.
You think you've just grown more comfortable with it?
Yeah, that's probably part of it too.
Yeah. Okay. Our next question: how do you feel you grew in your speaking and listening skills?
I feel like I've grown a lot with the assignments where there was romanticism and Gothic. We had to read that and then get up and present. That helps a lot, being able to present in front of everyone. Also, the Socratic discussions help a lot too.
Yeah, the Socratic discussions make you become a lot more open-minded and listen to everyone else's points of view.
Yeah.
I agree with Lucas. I said I've become a lot more open-minded as well to other people's opinions, and that's made me a better communicator with everybody else.
I'd put something similar. Also, just being forced to consider someone else's point of view. It's definitely helped with my arguing with my mom or something.
I wrote something similar to that. It just helps. Less arguments are caused. When you hear out everyone's ideas and opinions.
Yeah, I will say I've been able to listen to other people better, I guess, and understand where they're coming from. So,
I didn't have that, but I really like that. I had you get to hear if you're listening to an audiobook or someone's story, you get to actually get the whole gist of the story instead of just hearing partials is kind of what I would do. I'd just hear a partial of the
Yeah,
story.
I think
agree
that's
with
because
that,
she
though.
reads to us too.
Yeah.
I feel like that is probably because she reads to us out loud.
You guys over here?
I just said the same thing as you, Kelly, about how the presentations that we had to speak about and the discussions, they both help you speak aloud and have to listen to what people are saying.
And I feel like the outer circle during Socratic discussions that keeps you on your feet for listening. You have to write down what you're hearing, so that helps too.
That's a good point. Going with that, how do you think you grew in your thinking and learning skills and also your attitude?
I feel like I have learned different techniques. I used to not manage my time well at all, and I feel like with this semester you've had to manage time, or you want to have finished anything on time.
Yeah.
I agree with that because I procrastinate a lot on everything. Definitely can't do that. Definitely changed my mind about that.
As far as the thinking part of it, it's been a lot easier to. I've learned how to translate my thoughts to writings or presentations and Socratic discussions, like know what I will say, how to say it.
I agree with that, and also my attitude towards literature has gotten a lot better. And like, cause all the writings we did, like different informative essays, and personal narratives, they've helped like boost my creative thinking and learning skills because I didn't always know how to do them or do them well, but I got better, like because we did many of them and it helped improve on them.
My attitude was shifted more on like the outline, like I said, because at first I didn't like them. I just wanted to write. Now it actually made it a lot easier with like the final essay, and I can realize that even though it is kind of a pain to like break it up. But I'd say my attitude has shifted more toward the outline than just literature in general.
I definitely can agree with you on that because I just never liked that one. Like you said, it's just a pain to like break up and stuff.
Yeah.
But it definitely helps at the end.
Overall, I just said I was more willing to learn. I applied myself better. And I think that goes with like I just was better at reading the books and writing. I guess just apply myself. Yeah.
I will say I agree with the reading part. I am able to like actually understand what the story whenever I read something is telling, rather than what's happening, but why it's happening and the message behind it all. I guess.
What do you think, Kira?
I mean, I'm with all of you guys, but on like thinking and learning, I'm going outside of like literature here, but your brain is actually taking in new information constantly. And I feel like with this class, especially this last semester, our brains have definitely been bringing in more information than it normally does.
Yeah. Page's comment, it reminded me of like our focus on themes. Like what did you say again? You said like
Well, like rather than just what's happening in the story, like the message.
right, looking
Yeah.
like deeper into
Yeah.
it. I'd say I agree on that one too.
So I agree with that.
After reflecting, what would you say is your biggest area of growth?
Definitely planning and time management.
Yes.
That's definitely what forces you to like know what you want to do, when you want to do it, so you're not super stressed trying to get it done in the last night before it's due.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I said time management and organization because, like our literary analysis, we had to read a book in a short amount of time, and like I thought there was no way I was going to be able to do that until I broke it down and organized my thoughts or whatever, and I was able to get it done in time. And it was actually way easier than I thought it was going to be.
I agree with your organization part. I've never really had a problem with time management, but definitely like having the step-by-step process of all of our essays, like the peer reviews and then revisions and then turning it in definitely helps with organization. Again, I thought I grew with like seeking themes in literature instead of just reading the book. So I think that's where I grew the most.
Go ahead.
I thought I did like grew in the like learning skills. Like I learned best with like auditory type things, and like I learned this between her class and my Foundations of Education class, where you have to learn to get the information, and then if you take the notes, you have to take those notes based off of what you've heard, not so much what you saw.
I would say the whole time management thing applies to me, but more towards like the reading schedule that I made for my literary analysis book. Also using that time well, not just reading during that time, but like I said, analyzing what's happening and why it's happening in the story.
I agree with you guys like on the whole time and organization, but I also think that I grew like with my thinking and learning, like the different activities we did in class, like the Play-Doh and the writing on the desk, that helped me analyze what we're doing and then why. That just helped me a lot more.
But the time management isn't just a class, like that's a life skill that
It has to be protected.
I agree. Like I have a lot of activities outside of school and with all my homework, so I have to like make plans ahead of time to reduce stress and make my life easier.
Other comments?
Oh, today.
Alright, very good, guys. Okay, outside circle, what were some things that they did well? Places where you see growth in our Socratic discussion skills.
There's lots of agreement, but also different perspectives.
Yeah, a lot of different perspectives, which is nice. That gives the depth of the conversation and helps us come to a deeper collective understanding. Good. What else?
Everyone was engaged.
Yes, everyone was engaged. Good.
The conversation was like flowing.
Yeah.
There wasn't any process.
Yeah, very good, fluid conversation. Uh-huh.
Most everyone was talking clearly.
I didn't hear you.
Most everyone was talking.
Oh, yes. Yes. What else? Yeah, the confidence level and comfort level of discussing was good. Very good. All right, let's quickly and quietly switch spots.
That was so fun.
Why don't they different names and types of types? You've got a school
Alright,
shooter,
welcome.
background, and chopper.
Okay, welcome to our third Socratic discussion in English 3. Hi. What do you guys feel the significance of literature, especially American literature, is?
I think the significance of literature is how it expresses how the author feels about the things they're writing about and how the readers are being able to connect with it. And with American literature, I think it's different from literature around the world. There's like other authors from like around the world would usually stick to the traditions of their other authors, but American literatures wanted to create new traditions.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Your point pretty much just says that American authors want to have their own originality in their writing and kind of just make something for themselves. That's a good point. My personal claim was that literature allows the reader to visit places, experience events, meet people, listen to their stories, and feel their joys or sufferings, and it just talks about history too, the experience of people before us.
Yeah, I agree with Sophie. Without literature, like, we wouldn't know what happened in the past. Like with the Declaration of Independence, if that wasn't recorded, then
Yeah, that was a huge one of our sections, all the independence.
Yeah, that's what I said too. Not even like historical documents, but like the books, like Ain't I a Woman by Children of Truth. I think she talked about her own personal experiences and stuff. Like we wouldn't know that any of that happened without books written by people like there wouldn't be a thing. Like history class wouldn't exist. Basically.
Sarah.
I kind of agree with you guys. I put down like it shaped how it was then and it will shape how it will be soon. But like we obviously can't predict literature, but like if it happened, then it might happen.
What do you think, Kale?
I said it was more significance of literature was more on like a personal level, and if you don't take the time to like get into it, you know, then it's not gonna do anything for you. So you gotta,
Right, you get out what you put
yeah,
in.
yes.
I agree with that.
Does anyone else have like a different perspective?
Well, what I saw in the significance of literature was it's kind of like the gateway to everything in learning. Because without literature, um, like the reading part of it, most learning things involve reading. So without it, you can learn other things.
Very good point.
So basically, I said what most of you guys say. I see literature like it provides entertainment, but it also helps us record and make history. Like our first unit talked about the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, and it talked like without literature, our founding fathers used a pen and paper to make a nation. So literature would be important because it helps make history.
Alright, so next, how do you guys feel you each grew as an overall reader?
I just feel like with the constant reading that we did, I just became more fluent and I better understood what I was reading the first time. Because usually I have to read things like once or twice, a couple times, to get like the point that they're trying to get across. But towards the end of the year, or not the end of the year, the end of the quarter, I feel like I got a lot better at understanding.
I also think group discussions helped with that too. When you're very involved with everyone else and their opinions about what we had read.
I agree with all of you guys. Because like my ability to understand and comprehend the meaning of the text has increased a lot, and like the Play-Doh activities and the discussions after silent reading time have really helped to understand everyone's point of view and what's happening in the book.
As a reader, I like being able to read for the first 10 minutes of the day really helped like my reading skills a lot. I mean, I wish we like read more out loud, I guess, because that would help with like presentation skills and stuff. But definitely reading in my head too, like fluency wise, I guess.
Yeah, like I am a big reader. Like I do that pretty much every time I get a free chance. But so obviously that skill hasn't grown because I've still been reading a lot. But just like the annotating and actively asking questions about the texts that we read has improved.
I overall didn't really change my comprehension. I feel I'm fairly adequate in that. But I did get a lot faster in my reading ability, and I could skim and gain what I need to know from the text much easier and much more efficiently than I did at the beginning of the semester.
I agree with that. But back to what Belle said about how she wishes we read more out loud. I improved a lot on reading to myself. Like I can read more words like to myself. But I wish we worked more on reading out loud so I could get more fluent.
Yeah, that kind of goes to like the how do you feel you grew in your speaking listening skills. I feel like we should like presentations helped in these discussions, but I feel as though reading from like a text would have maybe been helpful.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of open discussions though about the readings, not like just the actual text.
Right. Yeah. Not that those didn't help.
Yeah.
But
I think Socratic discussions were the most tolerable.
Yeah.
About easily.
Socratic discussions help everyone get their point of view across, and it helps us understand where everyone's coming from and why they think that. So it just helps us better understand why someone thinks a certain way.
I also think that when we did those small activities, when we like looked at pictures in the books and then we like told partners or our table group with like what we saw or what we thought was going on or what took place or what was happening, really helped us like read the picture, and like reading just isn't with words these days. It's like body language, it's music, it's everywhere. So
How do you feel your speaking and listening skills, Donnie?
I feel like I'm able to speak in bigger groups without being nervous about it. I feel like my vocabulary has improved. Not as scared to speak in front of large groups because of those reasons. How about you, Dave?
I feel my speaking and listening skills, while not improved in this class per se, have improved in general. Throughout doing things I was interested in, as things I'm interested in usually involve narrative and personal speaking on different levels. Dylan, do you think your speaking skills have improved throughout the semester?
I think naturally your speaking and listening skills should improve because you're constantly using them. Because if you're not speaking or listening to people, you can't really function as a human. Because that's the thing that's unique about humans is that we can speak and listen and understand each other and work together. So I think naturally listening and speaking skills should improve. So I feel yes, I have.
How do you think you grew, Ken?
When I talk in front of people, I like to resort to comedy. But that doesn't always work. So I've been trying to
Broaden your horizon.
yeah, and be able to speak more
formally.
what's the word? Well, spontaneously. I like to be able to like just think of things on the spot.
Yeah.
To be able to say rather than like choking. Just like you know, just stand there. Yep.
So, what about writing skills? We feel we grew writing.
I've always loved writing, so I think it just got better for me.
I think that we did a lot of formal essays and stuff, so like it wasn't very personal as to what my previous English classes were like. So I think my structure, like formatting in essays, really improved a lot.
I definitely agree with that. Like outlines was not even a thing before to me. I mean, they've been mentioned, but having to do them really helped, and I'll definitely use them in the future, like college and stuff. I just, yeah.
I agree with everyone that's talked so far. I just feel like the outlines, like before when we first started writing, my essays were very choppy. Like I was blunt, straight to the point. But now, like I learned to piece it together. Like I used more descriptive details. I obtained a stronger voice and a broader vocabulary. So towards the end of the year, I think I got a lot better at that.
I think literacy journals gave us that constant repetitive writing in our daily classroom activity that kind of just overall improved my specific writing in that area.
I feel like the peer reviews and the workshops we did helped a lot too, because they were able to make my details much easier to understand and to visualize for the other readers.
I think the peer reviews are very necessary when we're doing essays and stuff, since you just kind of jot down stuff with the outline. It's not always complete thoughts. Some people just copy and paste. I copy and paste from my outline. So it's not always exactly what you want to say, and when other people read over it, it's a different perspective. You really see what everyone else thinks of your writing.
Yeah, and even doing the peer reviews for someone, like you can see how someone else may have written their essay or organized their details and notes and evidence and stuff like that.
I disagree. I think this structure actually deteriorated my writing skills, as being put to a rigid structure of this outline. I feel it really limited my ability to expand my ideas, as well as the constant historical essays. The historical parts of it, I'm not interested by that, so I didn't have any drive to actually write anything good, with the exception of the one point in time where we did the personal one, which allowed me to reach out.
Kind of agree with that. With the personal ones, it's easier to write with those because it's coming basically from things you've experienced instead of things you've read or gone over. I feel like I can branch out and write longer, more exquisite essays when it comes to things I've actually done.
Like that obviously always gives you more information to work with, but I think my perspective books also gave us a certain amount of information that was always necessary for our writings. As examples.
And it all depends on who you are. Because like the more creative people, like you two, can obviously branch out a lot more than some of the less creative people. And the outlines help people who aren't as creative. It gives them ideas of what to write. But yeah, some people just don't need outlines to give their ideas. I can see where you two are coming from.
Yeah, I think of outlines more as like training wheels for a big bike.
I kind of see what you're saying, because like I personally can like think of what I'm going to write about and like plan it out in my head, and like I don't have to physically see it to know what I want to write about and how to start it, finish it, and stuff. So I see where you're coming.
Alright, well, how do you guys feel you grew in your thinking and learning skills and attitudes?
My thinking has improved with new information and new skills to improve my overall experience that I gained from this class. There was a lot of, in the beginning, a lot of American and Civil War information that we analyzed through the literature, and I thought it was very helpful.
And just all the ways that we were able to learn, just like at the beginning of the year, we learned so many different ways that we could help learn, like the drawing on the desks and the post-it notes and the headers all helped us realize that there wasn't just one way to learn, that we all were unique and we all had our own way of learning. And I just learned that there were ways I learned that I didn't even know were possible for me.
I agree. Like, think back to the way beginning when we were learning about the brain. And looking back now, it really it makes me think, like, wow, that it does apply. Because, like, even though this was an English class, it really makes you think, like, how you can sit down and think in the future what it's going to be like. That was really interesting.
Yeah, personally, my learning skills, I've learned to annotate better. I guess I didn't really think much of annotating before this class. I just thought it was a waste of time and it interrupted my thinking while I read. But now I read a page and summarize at the bottom, which really helps me not forget. And that's, I guess, this class just it's really beneficial to me in that way.
Personally, I think that I've learned to always have a set plan, whether it be in like an outline, a prep sheet, anything. It just makes the bigger task a lot easier. Like if you get all of your thinking done before, then you got your it's basically done for you. And I related that back to like a basketball game. Before every game, we have a scouting report, so we know what each player does, what they run, what like their defense and offense. So when we go out on the court, we already know what they're gonna do. Yeah. So our game plans are just set.
What do you think, Dylan?
I feel naturally that your thinking and learning skills should improve as, like, when you're speaking and listening, you have to take in information, so you're thinking about information, and every day you're thinking about something, whether it be science, historical, political, etc. Everything you gotta think about it critically, and so the way that you think about it is gonna improve how you feel about things, how you think about them, and learn about them will improve. So learning skills and thinking skills will obviously improve too.
do agree with Dylan. Your speaking and listening skill, I think the learning skills should definitely improve as you grow and function in society as a regular person. Although you can obviously always improve your thinking and learning skills by doing stuff that engages those parts of your brain.
Did you have supporting evidence from like what we did in class for that?
Not necessarily, but I have seen it.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah, I totally can see how that relates, like, to real world, like, not in class. We obviously have a lot on our plates as students in high school. Okay, well, individually, what would you say was your biggest area of growth this year?
I'm gonna go back to like the reading skills. I think personally, like I got a lot more fluent, like reading to myself, obviously, not reading out loud. I mean, I've improved reading out loud, but it's still definitely something I can improve on. I think I grew more silent reading, or like I'm more fluent.
I agree. Mine was also reading because not specifically blocking hours reading a book, but broadening my interests in titles and genres was mine. Like at the beginning, we read a bunch of short poems, which aren't normally what I would just pick to read, and short stories about things like civil rights and the effect of nature and mind coming together. So I learned to open up a new book and just keep an open mind.
I think my group biggest was writing. Just being able to compare the writings from the start of the year to the end of the year, it was huge. I used a lot more detail, a lot more quality and quantity, and also the peer reviews helped a lot just to get another person in there, so it wasn't just me in case I made any mistakes or if they had any recommendations.
I agree with Carter. I felt writing was my biggest improvement because every time you do it, you keep doing it over and over and over, so you're building on that skill. And like for instance, with the peer reviews, when someone peer reviews, because in your head you know how you want it to sound, but when someone reads it, they might realize that you worded something poorly, so you can go back and fix it, or something doesn't come out the way you thought it would come out. So having a peer review helps you fix that later.
I said my biggest area of growth was probably finding textual evidence for my essays. So I guess that's both reading and writing. Picking out which part of the text would be good evidence for my essay, and then finding a place for it in my essay.
I said my time management skills because we had a lot of essays to write and stuff like that. Like, I do not like writing papers. I rather just write on my own time, like a diary kind of, but like not papers, you know. And like, my time management skills will really help in the future because like college and like future jobs or my long-term career, it will really help since I don't like falling behind schedules.
How did you go?
Writing. I came to the class already liking writing, so it was just my interest, I guess.
Can you elaborate?
Sure. I don't know. I like wrote some stories like when I was in like 7th grade, I think. And I deleted them all, and then I came here and I was like, well, I can learn more, so I'm gonna do that. And then type, and then I.
So are you saying that since you had an interest in writing, you were interested in growing a writing, or that you wanted to write better?
Yes. Both.
I said reading before I came into this class. I didn't really have the drive to read at all, and I finished 2 books during this class period, so I thought I grew on that. I find myself reading more things like manuals or guides.
Back to my reading. Like my first book, my first free read book that I chose, it took me the entire first quarter and like a week of the second quarter to finish. And the book was not that big, and it was kind of embarrassing. But yeah, now during the second quarter, I finished 2 books. So that I just thought that was a big improvement from before.
Were you able to understand it better?
Yes, it was.
Dylan?
Say about the final question.
Stated
My bad.
I do feel my love of reading was reinvigorated as back in late elementary, early middle school, I really did enjoy reading. I often get in trouble for reading in class, but through late middle school, early high school, I kind of lost interest. But once I got into this class and actually had a period of time where I could read uninterrupted, it reinvigorated my love and now I'm back reading again, which is nice.
All right, that wraps it up. Very good, guys. Good discussion. It's so nice to hear all that you've learned. I have learned so much from you as well. Any outside circle? Let's evaluate. What are some good things at the inside circle?
You guys did a good job, like bringing it back to like how you personally, like, you're putting your own personal twist on it, kind of, I guess. Like Gabe, like saying back to like when he was in elementary and
Yeah, circling
like
back.
that.
Yeah, and then like Lucas said, different points of view.
Yeah, definitely less agree
Yeah.
than an argument.
So you guys had a bunch of different ideas and that made it more interesting.
And yeah, getting more perspectives out there, understanding what different perspectives are there, gives us all a deeper understanding. Yeah, very good. Awesome job this year, guys.